Alright, so this is just going to be a quick follow-up to my video yesterday. I want to go over what has happened locally here, but first let's start on the higher time frames because there are some developments with this fixed range pull. So the value area low has shifted much lower. It's no longer within this range that we're trading in. It is just below it, and that does actually give a bit more confluence to some of these ideas that I had down here. So that is an interesting development. The value area low is much lower. And the point of control also shifted, so I have to move the point of control a bit lower, and it's actually right about where price is at right now, so that is very interesting. Let me make sure I got that accurate. At this point, just to clean up this chart a little bit, I'm going to delete that high volume node because it's no longer, really that significant. There's kind of a zone of high volume up here, which is maybe something I want to take note of, but I'm not going to leave that on my chart currently. But this high right here did run into this high volume zone right here. So yeah, I mean, that's maybe something to note if we end up working our way up here. And while we're here, we'll take a look at market cipher because we do have a green dot on the daily time frame. So things locally are starting to turn to the upside a bit. Momentum pushing up, VWAP pointing up sharply. Money flow is starting to turn back to the upside. Possibly we have fully retraced and it may start trying to put in another higher high soon. Of course, that's me trying to predict. Maybe it doesn't, but currently it seems like, pretty good for this overall uptrend in money flow. I think the overall direction is currently pointing to the upside. Now zooming into the midterm timeframes, this is that significant range that I was viewing in my last video. I called this a decision range. I still think that is true, even though, it doesn't have as good of confluence with the value area low and point of control. I mean, the point of control is still here. We are running into it right now, but yeah, I mean, I still think this is a decision range given what happened right here and how we are trying to reverse that bearishness with this range. I still think this is very significant. And these were the ideas that I looked at in my last video. So obviously since then we have continued to the upside. We pumped all day yesterday, got a little retrace. Now we're pumping back up to this local range high. Because we continued higher, that means my ideas have changed slightly. And on the 4 hour, you can actually see that the point of control is no longer where it was at last time. I think that is different on the lower time frames though. If we go to the 1 hour, the point of control is still right there. And I am still looking for a retrace to the downside. I still like this general zone. The golden pocket is in there now. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this up to the 0.5 fib. I'm going to make this more of a wider box and, maybe even include this resistance to support flip that is slightly above the 0.5. And, that would change this general idea. I'm not going to preset a limit order here anyway, and I'm not going to cover this whole box with my stop loss. I'm going to be looking for something locally, some kind of local setup where maybe I can take an SFP trade or, something on the lower time frames to give me a better risk reward. And the better confirmations too. I'm not just going to hope that this area works if we get a dump down here. But I do think that if we start reversing from this little range that we're forming right here, if we start retracing, I am still definitely looking for a higher low to continue rotating towards the upside of the range. I think if we, just continue up in the short term and then hit the high of the range, I'm less interested in this zone. It's still possibly significant, but yeah, I mean, I would prefer to get a move down there prior to hitting the range high. So that's really it for the developments on this midterm time frame range. I guess I'll also quickly go through market cipher. Just kind of point out the most significant things. And I mean, on the 4 hour, money flow aggressively turned to the upside here. It's now crossing into the green, but momentum does seem like it's trying to top out here. The VWAP direction to the downside is not very strong. It has an outward curve. It's curving away from the zero line rather than curving towards it, kind of showing strength in that move to the downside. But there is still a chance that this momentum wave tops out a little bit. Maybe it starts retracing. Possibly momentum has to come down to print some sort of a trigger wave on this 4 hour, which could give us a move back down towards this significant zone. 3 hour money flow, honestly, currently it looks kind of weak. We had a nice little trigger wave, a very tight one, if you want to call that a trigger wave, but the follow through so far is very poor. It's kind of still hugging the zero line. It's not looking very strong. 2 hour money flow, interestingly, during this whole pump to the upside, did not even cross into the green. It actually somehow put in a lower low during that time, which is, very odd. You don't usually see that. And currently, we do actually have a divergence, a bearish one on that last high. So we have a lower high in momentum with a higher high in price. It's still unconfirmed because we haven't printed a red dot yet. and there is still a chance that we just continue higher past this local range. But currently it looks like momentum is diverging a little bit, and it is actually a confirmed divergence on the 1 hour. But the money flow here does look a lot more bullish. And it is the same thing on the 45, the 30, not the 15 though. So on the 30 and the 45, momentum diverged, at least as of right now. Money flow did not, but on the 15-minute money flow did diverge. We have a lower high with money flow, a lower high with momentum, as we just took out that high. Even local divergences here, and the regional ones from here to here. So a little bit of bearishness as we are ranging here, but to me it seems more like temporary bearishness. I think it would actually be healthy for a continued move to the upside if we retraced a little bit before trying to push towards the range high. I think that would give us a better chance at trying to break the range bullishly. And now zooming into this local range that we've been forming following that pump that we got yesterday, there are a few ideas that I am looking at in here. So first off, because we're ranging, and because this local range will probably determine what happens next on the higher time frames. If we break it to the downside, then we could see a retrace to some lower supports. If we break it to the upside, then we could just continue this bullishness without retracing, and we could see some significant follow through. So because of that, I am ideally looking to hedge myself within this range. If I can take some short trades, take some profits on them, put my stop loss to entry, and then just hold them in case we break the range bearishly, then I'm looking to do that. If I can also take some long trades if we get a move down towards the low of the range, and do the same thing, take profits on it within the range, put my stop loss to entry, and then just hedge myself. There's a better chance that when we break the range one way or another, I will probably still be in a trade in that direction. That is what I like to do within these ranges. But more importantly, I'm looking for smart setups that will allow me to TP and lock in some profits at local targets within the range, right? I'm not going to be just entering a short here, stop loss up here, hoping that we come down and break the range, because risk reward in that case does not really allow me to TP within this range. I have to hope that we end up breaking the range, otherwise that trade may end up losing. So I'm looking for smart trades in here. And some obvious areas is around the high and around the low of the range. I think that currently, because we did see some divergences on this high, if we start losing point of control and if some kind of local setup is presented, I will look for a short to possibly continue rotating back down towards the low. We did leave a pretty significant support zone down here. We left an NDPOC from yesterday, and if you take the volume profile of the daily candle, so from daily candle open, which is 20 o'clock on Thursday, to the daily close yesterday, you'll see we have an NDPOC at 62,339, and this came very close to not really being a valid one. We actually closed the daily candle right after getting moved past this area, so the daily close was right here if I put a vertical line on that candle. And because of that, we have not touched this since it technically confirmed once the day closed. We bounced off it basically right before the daily candle closed, and that actually ended up being the range low. So this NDPOC is right above the range low. It's kind of not an ideal place for it. I like when there's kind of a range low, front running an NDPOC, so you can SFP the range into that key level. I like those kind of setups much better. But this is still significant, and because it's in front of the range low, I think I'm looking at these as two separate ideas. One is bouncing from the NDPOC, one is taking out the range low with some kind of bullish things. And again, I'm not going to be taking this trade right here just because it's an NDPOC. If we come down, get a little wick reaction, but I'm not liking how market cypher's looking, I may wait to see if we're going to come down and take out the range low, and I'll wait for the better trade setup. That's pretty much it for my ideas. I'm not really looking for any longs prior to getting down here, just based on how we came up here. There's a bunch of higher lows. We could easily stop a bunch of longs out on this move to the downside. So yeah, I'm not really interested in anything like around the value area low. And that could maybe change. Maybe we get a move down here, take out a lot of liquidity, and then start ranging. And maybe there's like a super bullish setup in that range. Maybe then I'll take it. But in terms of my plans, I'm not planning anything out except for basically the low of the range. And one more thing before I leave, I will talk about this long setup that I took right here. It was a pretty simple one, nothing really too special about this, but I noticed that on this move to the upside, we kept seeing bullish absorption, and I think my lines got deleted, so I will have to kind of cross-reference and figure out where this was. So my entry is right below this current range low. Let me go to the 5-minute. That means that I entered on this bullish absorption right here. So we had a higher low in price. We saw CVD putting in a lower low, a pretty significant one. And you can see that during that time, at least some of that move to the downside in CVD was shorts opening, with open interest getting a significant move to the upside. CVD moving lower, but price was putting in a higher low. That is a sign of absorption for me. And we had seen that previously. There were other situations where we saw absorption. I think, right here was another one. Higher low in price with CVD decreasing and open interest increasing during that time. So there were some shorts being absorbed right here as well. And I think there were some other examples, but I'm not going to spend too much time looking for all those. This was the one I entered on. I entered like right about here after we started rebounding. My entry is right below the range low, so what I have done is I've taken a little bit of extra profits out of this, and I'm keeping my stop loss down below this low. Just in case we end up SFPing this range and, getting a move back to the upside, I don't want to get stopped out given the fact that, we front ran my entry right here. I almost got stopped out right here. My stop loss was at entry at that point. So, I took a little bit of extra profits up here and moved my stop down a little bit to try and prevent a situation like this happening. All right, that's it for this one. Those are pretty much all of my plans at the moment. Locally on the midterm timeframes. Yeah, pretty much everything that's relevant. And I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. I appreciate all of the support on my channel. And I will see you all in the next video.